Michigan lawmakers are refusing to resign despite the affair that they've been having with one another. Now, if these were Democratic representatives, we probably wouldn't have a conversation about them. But since they're Tea Party representatives that ran on a platform of family values and did whatever they could to protect traditional marriage, they are going to be thrown under the bus in this segment. So the two people in question here are Representative Cindy Gamrat and Representative Todd Courser. And again, they're state representatives from Michigan. Now, earlier this month, it was revealed that Todd Courser tried to get one of his aides to leak an email indicating that he paid to have gay sex with a man behind a nightclub. Now, he didn't actually do that, but his plan of attack was, okay, news about my affair is about to come out. I want to do something that'll lessen the blow or at least distract my constituents, so let me put a gay scandal out there. Okay.
Unique.
Disastrous idea.
Okay, I like the way this guy's thinking. Outside the box, literally.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Okay. So he has this affair, and it's revealed they're having sex. They're two Tea Party candidates, or representatives, I should say. And even though they've completely abandoned their platform, and they're clearly not family values, they're both married, they've both decided, no, we are not going to step down. Cindy Gamrat finally released a statement about this, and here's what she had to say. Although I am not proud of my personal conduct, in regards to my position as state representative of the 80th District, I believe that an open and honest investigation will vindicate me. Now, the investigation is to see whether or not there was any misuse of state funds during this affair. She continues to say, for now, I believe that the best path is for me to move forward, and I intend to continue to represent my district to the best of my ability.
Yeah, I'm split on this one, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. So first off, are they hypocrites? Of course! These guys co-sponsored legislation to make sure that only pastors could marry people in their state.
Let me give you details about that. And that's the reason, and these are the details which make my opinion on this easy and clear, I guess. Gamrat sponsored a bill from Courser to prevent non-clergy from performing marriages, largely seen as an attempt to counteract the legalization of same-sex marriage. She actively campaigned on her conservative view of marriage, attacking Mary Whiteford for her opponent in the Republican primary last year, for what Gamrat characterized as her weaker stance on traditional marriage, okay? Yeah. So this is a woman who's running around telling people like, yo, I'm judging you if you're not doing the whole traditional marriage thing, but I'm getting some dick on the side. That's what's happening with this woman.
Okay, so are they despicable? Of course they are. They're like, you know, as you say, traditional marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, I have my traditional marriage. I got my dick on the side too. Okay, so, but to them, they probably feel like, I mean, look, we don't mean traditional marriage as in like you're actually loyal to your wife or husband. No, of course not. Which doesn't mean we hate gay people. And so that's why when we talk about that this is the discrimination against gays is actually a form of hatred. It's not like they really
not a philosophical thing.
They really care about what the Bible says. Right. Or, no, when it comes to other things, they don't give a damn what the Bible says, right? And so I think that they're genuinely flummoxed a little bit when people are like, and it's Donald Trump said the same thing. They said, wait, you've been married 3 times. You've been divorced twice. He says, yeah, I'm for traditional marriage. Lots of it. Right? He thinks, well, I don't understand what you're saying. I'm not gay. I still hate gay people. Right? No, it's also not traditional to fuck around on your husband and your wife. Yeah. Right? So that's also against the Bible. So giant hypocrites. Should the voters throw them out on their ass? Absolutely. Grab them by the ear, the voters, and then throw them out of office in the next election. Now, in terms of actually bringing charges against them, misuse of resources, government resources, that's like a standard thing that people throw out there when they just want to get rid of people. Right?
No, I get it. But look, it's not uncommon for misuse of state resources in situations like this, right? So if they're using taxpayer money for like their rendezvous, then I'm going to have an issue with that. So I think that investigation, I would totally have an issue with that. I think that investigation is totally warranted. Look, I don't care about people having affairs. I don't care about their personal lives. I don't care if they like to be cuckolded or if they like to have gay orgies, whatever. It's your business. It's your life, okay? But don't go around. They're impacting people's lives here, right? They're actually having an influence on people's rights and whether or not they can have the types of relationships they wish to have. And so if you're preaching about these things and at the same time you are a hypocrite on your own ideology, then you need to go. You need to go. Bye, bitch.
I know, but that's a policy matter. So, look, I'm going to give an important twisty twist at the end here, okay? But hear me out on the rest of it. See, when Clinton got caught in a sex scandal, at the time I was a Republican, didn't like Clinton, right? But I thought, okay, haha, we got him, and I was having fun with that. But I said, wait a minute now. You're worried that he lied about it. Well, of course he's going to lie about it. What's he going to do? Be like, oh, yeah, immediately. Oh, you got me. Oh, fucking the intern. You know what I'm saying, right? No, anybody who has sex that they're not supposed to have, by definition, lies about it every time. So now if we're going to look into whether they misused resources to have their affair because they used a government car or whatever, then we're going to have to look into everybody's government car. Then we're looking into all the, but you use government resources to fuck your wife. Is that a misuse of government resources? I know, like, we're just using a car as a silly example, but I don't want to get into their private lives. They're giant hypocrites. They should lose on policy grounds. They should lose because the conservatives who elected them should know that they were betrayed by them, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing. They get reelected over and over again, which is
I know,
incredible.
but hey, that's not my problem. That's the problem of their voters.
And also, I guess part of me is also bitter because if these were Democrats, they would resign before the information was even leaked to the press, right?
That's right.
Like Anthony Weiner showing his dick on Twitter, who cares? Who cares? And he resigned, right? And honestly, look, he cheated on his wife, it's terrible, whatever, but he didn't run on a platform of family values.
Right.
So, go ahead.
So, and in this case, what I think partly what the Republicans are doing, let alone everybody else, is it's embarrassing. These guys are embarrassing. Let's get them out of here. Misuse of government resources. That's why you got to go, right? It's an excuse. Now, that's largely how I felt about it until I read the part in the story, which is a twisty twist, where the guy wants to this Courser fellow who looks so goddamn intense, you know?
I mean, look at him. He's like right behind you.
I know, he's bearing down on me. Like, dude, just, hey.
Look at that cummular stare he's giving you.
I know. It's like, he's like looking at me like a fucking killer behind me, right? Okay, all right, anyway. So this guy has the insane plan of saying, hey, you go leak that I had gay sex, you know?
Yes.
And he says, that's because I wanted a controlled burn and I wanted to inoculate the herd. Like, that shit intense people say. That doesn't make any sense. But they're like, you know, I'm going to inoculate the herd. What the fuck does that mean? All right, anyway. Yeah. So I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to distract people and then go, that's outrageous and wrong.
Yeah.
Because he can say that's wrong,
yes.
right? But he then fired the guy who wouldn't go along with that crazy plan.
Twisty
twist. Well, you can't fire a legitimate government worker for not going along with your crazy plant a gay sex rumor plan. He was right not to go along with that plan. You're a goddamn lunatic, right? For firing that guy, which is totally inappropriate and a real issue. That's why I think they should resign. So in the end, I agree with you on the result. I wish they hadn't done that so I could actually defend them on, hey, look, man, take it to the voters. Because I don't like people getting thrown under the bus for sex scandals because people get embarrassed and they just want to get them out of town, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. And to me, we have to be consistent on people lie on sex. Right.
Well,
so, you know, it's so easy to try to get them out on that, but you're not really going after them for the lying. You're going after them because, oh my God, the sex embarrassed me.
Right. I guess you're right about that, about what they're using, the tactic they're using to like push them out of office. But I still think they should be out of office. And you agree with me. The voters on our TYT app don't agree with us so far, but they might based on the details we just gave you. So please chime in, vote on the TYT app. The poll asks you whether or not you think that Cindy Gamrat should resign. So far, 66% of you say no, 34% of you say yes. Love the stock images. They're awesome.
Yeah. I guess they had a different kind of party of their own, isn't it? Tea party would say, oh yeah, come over for a tea party. Supplies.